tension is because Brandon Beane, the general manager, since Josh Allen arrived, has what, 56 draft picks, 2 Pro Bowlers? Is he, as many are claiming, kind of a suck up to the owner? I was told months ago he's more of a cap guy than a personnel guy. He's a smart guy, got a little bit of an ego, but Buffalo fans and media are a little bit tense today because of the firing. But let me just say this. It's easy to do the Pittsburgh thing. Hey, we're over 500. Playoff wins are overrated. It's hard to do what Buffalo did. Sean McDermott was well-liked and respected, 98-50 with 8 playoff wins. They just couldn't beat Mahomes and Andy Reid. Join the club. What probably was his undoing, because we all thought he was safe after beating Jacksonville in Jacksonville, a very good team. According to Vic Carucci, a respected reporter covering the Bills for a long time, 5 weeks ago, McDermott met with Brandon Beane and the owner. McDermott, and this takes some guts, sat down with his 2 bosses and said, I don't think we have enough all-star level, Pro Bowl level talent to win a Super Bowl. According to Vic Carucci, it did not go over well. So, and I will say this, Buffalo found ways to lose every January. They couldn't get the tush-push right. That was a year ago. The 13-second loss. This year, 5 turnovers and complaining about officiating as Bo Nix was more efficient than Josh Allen. But Dallas and Jerry Jones, it appears, will no longer pay top dollar for a head coach. And Pittsburgh, it appeared forever, was not willing to move off a coach who couldn't win playoff games. And as far as I can tell, Buffalo's willing to do both. So in their last 6 playoff exits, you can blame Brandon Beane, you can blame Sean McDermott. In their last 6 playoff exits with a defensive coach, and now a Bosa, and previously a Von Miller, they're allowing, on average, 33 points per game in losses. So you can blame whoever you want. Something had to change. You may not like the GM. Maybe you'll miss the head coach, but they're willing to take a swing. It's so much easier to do the Pittsburgh thing. Nobody's offended. Everybody in the building is happy. Yes, people from the outside, the dark side, may criticize the Steelers, but hey, we do what we do. Buffalo's a small town. They're taking a big swing. I respect it. Albert Breer yesterday on the move.
There was a different feel in that building the last couple of months. More tension, I think more pressure on everybody. They realize what they've got in front of them, the opportunity that Josh Allen as a quarterback gives them. And I think some of that spilled out, Colin, after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, and listen, I understand the tension, but, you know, Jerry Jones is ironic because he always talks about every time he seeks a bargain, that's exactly what he gets. And I feel like Jerry Jones should listen to his own words. It feels like he's always trying to get a bargain at head coach. Look around the playoffs. No Mahomes, no Allen, no Lamar, no Burrow. Once you pay that star quarterback, it doesn't matter if Andy Reid's your coach. It's hard to be great. Buffalo is suffering through what the Chiefs, what Cincinnati, what a lot of these highly compensated quarterback franchises are struggling with. Their roster's got some holes.
All right, let's unpack this. It feels like Colin is, well, to be perfectly honest, I'm not entirely sure what point he's driving at right now, because he seems to be articulating a bit of everything. He discusses the critical importance of coaching, then pivots to suggest it doesn't matter who your coach is if you're paying your quarterback a massive contract. So, the logical follow-up is, what is the actual argument being made here? The statistic about the Buffalo Bills' defense surrendering over 30 points in their last 6 playoff losses is staggering. It's a wild, telling pattern. While that specific data set is now slightly dated, I've previously delved into analytics showing how Josh Allen consistently posts elite EPA, expected points added, and points per game figures in playoff losses, performing at his peak when the team needs him most, while the defense simultaneously plummets to its worst. The data, compiled by analysts like Warren Sharp, illustrates just how monumental the challenge of overcoming such a defensive collapse truly is. This is the primary domain where head coach Sean McDermott shoulders immense blame. There are simply too many pivotal moments across these playoff runs where players and units appear unprepared for the magnitude of the occasion. The infamous 13 seconds game. The 2023 playoff loss, marred by critical dropped passes. The 2024 exit, lacking any reliable short yardage solution. The high-profile acquisition of Amari Cooper, who then botches a screen pass that, if executed, fundamentally alters the game's trajectory. These are the accumulating, marginal failures. Yet, we exist in a hyper-polarized, biased sports media landscape where the dominant, lazy narrative remains fixated on Josh Allen, pretending he is the singular impediment to postseason success. They then leverage a game like Saturday's, where he admittedly wasn't at his sharpest, as evidence of why he falls short. This line of reasoning is intellectually bankrupt. Josh Allen has demonstrably played at a level more than sufficient to win playoff games in 2021, 2023, and 2024. In those seasons, his performance was clearly adequate. The collective infrastructure around him was not. Now, in a contest against the Denver Broncos where he wasn't operating at his peak, there was no supportive framework in play calling, in playmaking, in situational execution to buoy the team. The primary running back fumbles. Receivers drop passes in absolute crucible moments. Questionable play calling surfaces at the worst possible times. However, due to an obsessive desire to assign blame to Allen, critics highlight his mistakes, which absolutely existed, while completely missing the overarching context. When you meticulously examine every massive moment for quarterbacks like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, you will find a catalog of their own miscues and imperfect plays. The fundamental distinction is that they were subsequently given opportunities to still succeed. Opportunities forged by their defense making a stop, a teammate making an extraordinary play, or a coach dialing up a perfect scheme. This is the element the Buffalo Bills have consistently failed to provide. They have systematically failed to construct an ecosystem where a quarterback's inevitable mistakes don't become fatal. Consider the discourse around paying a quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles paid Jalen Hurts a massive contract and proceeded to win a Super Bowl. The narrative around the Cincinnati Bengals often cites paying Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as a constraint, yet the Eagles paid A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Haason Reddick, and Hurts, and still constructed an elite defense. So, what is the Bills' specific, insurmountable problem? The entire notion that you cannot navigate the financial realities of a quarterback's second contract to build a contender is one I wholly and entirely reject. However, when you are the defensive-minded head coach and you cannot devise a method against elite teams, elite coaches, and elite quarterbacks to meaningfully limit them when everything is on the line, that is an indefensible problem. Observe what Steve Spagnuolo's defense did against Bo Nix and the Broncos in their two matchups. One where the Chiefs were fighting for their playoff lives, another with emotional weight. Look at what the Los Angeles Chargers defense managed. There were moments where other defenses disrupted Denver's rhythm. As a firm believer in Bo Nix and Sean Payton, even I acknowledge the Broncos weren't operating at peak efficiency late in the season. Yet, against Buffalo, they were essentially flawless. One disruptive play led to an interception. That was the solitary blemish. We can discuss the Bills' turnovers, but they still conceded 30 points. A common misunderstanding about turnovers is viewing them as extra possessions. They are not. They are simply failed defensive possessions, equivalent to a punt or a 3-and-out. They don't artificially inflate the opponent's drive count in that manner. Watching that game unfold, my live stream commentary centered on the inability of either defense to get a stop. Both offenses moved at will. For Sean McDermott, that reality is ultimately indefensible. The organizational move to promote Brandon Beane to a president role is intriguing and slightly confusing. Is he still the de facto general manager? The structure is unclear. If his role shifts away from direct roster construction, it introduces an interesting variable into the football operations hierarchy. The core, enduring truth across all these years, is that the Buffalo Bills have never authentically positioned Josh Allen and this team for sustainable postseason success. Even examining a player like Stefon Diggs provides a jarring contrast. I watched him make a spectacular, strong-handed touchdown catch for the Houston Texans in the divisional round. Yet, with the Bills in a prior playoff loss, he dropped a pass that hit him squarely in the hands, a catch that likely seals a victory. He makes a tough catch for Drake May and the Patriots to score a touchdown. Why is it that in the most consequential moments, Bills players on both sides of the ball so frequently fail to meet the moment? I observed the Chicago Bears defense exhibit more physicality, generate more critical stops, and cause more disruption against Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp. There is no rational universe where the Chicago Bears defense should outperform the Buffalo Bills defense against the Denver Broncos. None. The Baltimore Ravens in 2023 at least contained Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to 17 points. That defense could state, "We held them." Now offense, can you muster just 2 touchdowns and a field goal? They couldn't, but the defensive foundation was laid. Conversely, Mahomes' defense that year held the MVP-led, best offense in the NFL, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, to 10 points. The ask of Mahomes was simple. Can you produce 11 points? He did. This brings me to a specific, often overlooked play. In that AFC Championship game, the Chiefs' defense had held the Ravens to 7 points until just 2 minutes and 34 seconds remained. Then, facing a critical 3rd and 9 after the 2-minute warning, Andy Reid dialed up a play that caught everyone off guard. A design where many expected a run. That play wins the game. Marquez Valdes-Scantling makes a falling down catch. That is execution. That is the defense rising to hold a powerful offense, coaching rising with a perfect play call, and a player making a contested catch on a play where the defense wasn't even in position to make a play on the ball. Contrast that with the moment Josh Allen needed a play against the Chiefs in 2024. Pressure was in his face immediately. He did everything humanly possible to get the ball out, and his receiver dropped it. Or another instance where a receiver failed to read the defense correctly, turning a potential 40-yard touchdown or huge gain into nothing. In the Chiefs scenario, Andy Reid schemed a player wide open. Patrick Mahomes had pristine protection, all day to throw, and lofted a pass to a falling receiver. Game over. That is the chasm between winning and losing. It's execution, play calling, and protection. When Patrick Mahomes threw a red zone interception in the Super Bowl, his defense immediately bailed him out. No harm, no foul, no consequences. These are the compounding little things that forge championship victories. Can you regularly point to the Buffalo Bills executing these little things? The evidence suggests you cannot. Examine the Eagles, the Rams, the Chiefs, teams that have actually won Super Bowls recently. You see the accumulation of precise execution in all 3 phases. Using last year's Eagles as a blueprint, Saquon Barkley doesn't fumble against the Rams. Their defense generates critical turnovers on the final drive, with Jordan Davis in Matthew Stafford's lap forcing a prayer. Against the Commanders, they forced turnover after turnover. And against the very Kansas City Chiefs that Buffalo struggles to contain, a defense featuring key rookies and veterans like Darius Slay and C.J. Gardner-Johnson absolutely dismantled Patrick Mahomes. The Bills have never authored a defensive performance of that caliber against the Chiefs. That Super Bowl wasn't Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes, it was the Eagles versus the Chiefs, and the Eagles dominated. Too often, it feels like Josh Allen versus the Chiefs, not the Buffalo Bills versus the Chiefs. Can you name one singular, meaningful moment in the Broncos game where Josh Allen was bailed out by his team, where the defense provided a game-changing stop after a mistake, or a receiver made an impossible catch to cover for an errant throw? It doesn't happen. Yet it happened routinely for Tom Brady. It happens constantly for Patrick Mahomes. It happened for Jalen Hurts and Matthew Stafford during their title runs. Is it any surprise those are the quarterbacks holding Lombardi trophies from the last decade? It is not luck or randomness. It is the essential, non-negotiable ecosystem required to win at the highest level. Therefore, I am utterly fascinated to see what organizational path the Bills choose. The fanbase's desired path is clear, but there often exists a disconnect between popular sentiment and the necessary, sometimes colder, football decisions an organization must make. The coaches and front office will view this through a more clinical, detail-oriented lens than the general fan. While in Philadelphia, fan sentiment and organizational action firing coordinators were aligned, the situation in Buffalo feels more complex and potentially divergent. But these are simply my analytical perspectives. I am absolutely eager to hear yours. What are your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills following this latest playoff exit? Do you believe the organization is wasting Josh Allen's prime? How do you feel about the initial moves and the overarching direction of the franchise? Let me know your analysis in the comment section below. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, let's get some discussions going. Let's have some passionate debates. But ultimately, let's enjoy the conversation. Please consider subscribing. We are building an incredible community here, and I would absolutely love to see you become part of it. My aim is to create something we all feel a genuine connection to, something we're truly excited to be a part of. I believe we're making significant progress. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it genuinely helps with visibility and the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much.